jump into Who's Eating Good, presented by Applebee's. Of course, this is the time of the week where we look at some players that are on a hot stretch and really ask the question if they can sustain it. Lawrence, starting with Isiah Pacheco, who's got the Vikings this week. He comes in as RB14 for Barry's Week 5 rankings. Pacheco had some big moments against the Jets defense on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, Isiah Pacheco, especially these past two games, he's been eating so good that the Applebee's restaurant going to make him wash dishes. I mean, he's running the ball like the rent is due, like he got the eviction notice. And the best thing about this is, fellas, his carries are increasing each game. He went from 8 to 12 to 15 to 20. He's been a top 5 running back the past 2 weeks, and he's doing it efficiently, averaging 5 yards on the ground. Now, he goes against the Vikings this weekend, who are the 9th best against running backs, but they're the 2nd worst against receivers. So he's going to have opportunities in that game to have a 3rd straight week where he gets in the end zone. So I like him now, and I like him the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the 14th best running back so far this week. He's averaging 20 touches a game over the last 2 weeks. What's exciting, though, is also he's starting to get used in the passing game. 3 or more targets in 3 or 4 games this season. He's got an 83% catch rate, which is not something that he was really known for coming out of college. Yeah. People were questioning whether he would have, as you like to say it, Connor, soft hands. I have to tell you, when he runs angry. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best way I can describe it.
You run like you owe him something, right?
I mean,
like you better pay him.
I think of whenever I see him run, I think of the, I think of the Mark Jackson. It's an NBA thing, but like Mark, Mama, there goes that man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that's the phrase that always comes to my mind when I see him run, because he runs so angry. I love it.
He's like the antithesis of Le'Veon Bell, who was kind of just always gliding and waiting for his moment. Isiah Pacheco is just the arm movements.
Yeah.
He certainly looks the part.
Right. He's just like, I'm not going to try to shift. I'm just running through you.
Yes.
And he's getting better. He done got better with his vision and stuff like that. That was a part that, he struggled with coming out of college, but now it's starting to.
And they're trusting him more and more, giving him more and more work. We thought this would be like a 2, maybe 3-headed committee, and it's the Isiah Pacheco show. And I think as they get close to the playoff, you'll see McKinnon get a little bit more worked in, but certainly here for the early and middle part of the season, it's going to be Isiah Pacheco.
And I like what you brought up, Barry, that he is getting involved in the pass game. They're just still haven't figured it out with the wide receivers yet. Now you're at the point where Mahomes is like, okay, Kelsey or running back outlets maybe at this point.
That's scary.
That's great.
Teams.
Right. That's great news for Pacheco. Jay, how about Nico Collins and the consistency he's had this week in this Texans offense? In large part, C.J. Stroud just does not look like a rookie quarterback right now. And on top of that, Collins is getting the target share out of these pass catchers.
Yep, number 7 wide receiver in fantasy to this point, Nico Collins. All the buzz has been about Puka Nacua. Nico Collins is having a similar season to Puka Nacua, and he's been incredible. He's been the beneficiary of C.J. Stroud being better than anyone could have imagined. Now, they did have another offensive lineman go down, so they are give backups to the backup are getting hurt, but just doesn't seem to matter for C.J. Stroud. He's having the best start to a career that a rookie quarterback has ever had. And he's been doing it against some decent defenses as well. So Atlanta's secondary doesn't really scare you. So, Nico Collins is just a locked-in top 15 wide receiver going forward, that type of range.
9 targets or more in 3 of 4 games as well. At least 6 receptions for 80 yards in 3 out of 4 games so far this season. And he's 3rd. This is crazy. He's 3rd, as you see it there on your screen. He is he's one of 4 wide receivers this season with multiple games of 140 yards. When you're on a screen with Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Puka Nacua, to your point, Jay, in terms of the kind of season Nico Collins is having, he's 3rd in yards per route run this season. Ayuk and Tyreek Hill. Brandon Ayuk and Tyreek Hill are the only 2 guys ahead of him. When you're on that kind of list, when it's, I'm with you on Nico Collins.
Yeah, same.
Top 20 wide receiver.
Yeah, same here. And
him and Tank Dell, both guys.
Yeah, and I'll add to this by saying, while the Falcons DBs definitely won't scare you, they are top 7 against receivers and running backs in fantasy. But with C.J. Stroud throwing the ball.
That's because, here's the reason. Because Desmond Ritter's throwing so many picks, you don't actually get the opportunity to throw against these guys. Because the defense is on
Trevor Lawrence, so Jared Goff, he didn't light up the Falcons. Trevor Lawrence, he didn't light up the Falcons. But yes, Desmond Ridder was in that bakery handing out them turnovers. You feel me? So the Falcons is solid. But with the volume of
dad jokes is my lane, right? You know that. Dad jokes is my lane. I know you are, but I'm just saying, All right, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah. But
I'm just messing.
Texans, they're the 4th best passing offense right now, but the 7th worst rushing. So that's how I expect them to do their thing against Atlanta.
And when you look at this offense with Nico Collins, this is absolutely sustainable. I don't think this is a question at all. When you look at what Stroud did at Ohio State, he leaned on Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'm not saying Nico Collins is going to be, what we expect Marvin Harrison Jr. to be one day, but he's a big-bodied wide receiver that you could throw it to him when he's covered. And Stroud is a guy that trusts his wide receivers to make a play. So you're already seeing him earn that target share from the rookie quarterback that's been phenomenal. I expect this to continue. Lawrence, our last player here, Christian Kirk, who a total dud week 1, and that kind of lied to us because since week 2, Kirk is wide receiver 12 on a points per game basis right now. He does have the Bills, which is a little bit scary, but Kirk has really picked it up since a disappointing start to the season.
Yeah, the Bills is real scary, but what I'll find interesting is how it works out when Zay Jones, or if he comes back this week. Because like you said, week 1 was the dud. After that, the targets are like up and down, up and down. What helped him in week 3 was he scored the touchdown. Wasn't a lot of production, but he had the touchdown there. But it's solid. If Zay Jones is out again, then I would feel comfortable feeling like he could have another double-digit point fantasy game.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 40% target share last week. That's just not sustainable in this offense as well. Here the positives, 81% of his fantasy points are coming from the slot, which is where he typically lines up. But Zay Jones demands some targets. And so we'll see whether, when Zay Jones comes back, we know Ridley is the alpha in this passing offense, and so whether it's Kirk versus Zay Jones for the number 2. But certainly for this game in London for Kirk against Buffalo, I'm at wide receiver 24. So I'm as a high upside, mid-tier wide receiver 3. Again, the availability of Zay Jones will impact some of that as well. Buffalo is a good defense. They'll be aware of him. So I'm not ready to suddenly be like, yes, all the concerns after week 1 and after the preseason where we just didn't see Kirk that involved because it was all about the outside of the field. I'm not sure those are gone yet. We need to see what happens when Zay Jones comes back. But as long as he's out, Kirk is very much a viable wide receiver 3.
Yeah, it's still weird that he had that week 1 and had 3 targets and 1 catch for Christian Kirk, but he did have the 14 targets against the Chiefs in a game that Zay Jones did play. So I think ultimately you're going to wind up somewhere in the middle where he's a 7, 8 target guy.
The only point on that one though is that the Chiefs specifically they're bad against the slot. We talked. I mean, Christian Kirk was on my love list prior to that list because prior to that week because we thought that's where they would attack. Again, like sort of in a neutral game script. Just if Zay Jones is fully healthy, does he get the kind of volume? I mean, again, he got a 40% target share last week.
Yeah.
This offense has been disappointing too. Trevor Lawrence, it's kind of been rocky for him.
Division's wide open, fellas. That division's open.
Yeah, I do think the Jags, I believe in this offense. I think Trevor Lawrence is legit. I think he's a top 7, 8 quarterback in the NFL. And they just have this weird disparity right now where their success rate on offense is very high in the top 10, but their results are bottom 5. And that's just because they cannot convert a third or fourth down. That Chiefs game was comical. They had all these they were an inch away and they just could not convert. Eventually they will convert those plays. They'll stay on the field longer. They'll accumulate more yards and points. I'd be a buyer in the Jags.
Their line needs to get better as well.
Right.
That's been one issue as well. It's just the line's been tough so far.
Basketball season is almost here, and that means one thing. It's draft season. Get the Roto World Basketball Draft Guide, which includes all the rankings, player outlooks, and projections you need to win your league this year. Go to NBCSports.com to get your draft guide now, and use code HOOPS23 to save 20% off and receive a $10 Fanatics e-gift card. Maybe we'll get Matthew to sign a couple of those basketball draft guides as well. All right, we're going to break. When we're back, keep it open. Close it out.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.